Your home for our Atlanta Falcons, Hawks, and Atlanta United. Your teams play here. Sports Radio 92.9, The Game.
It is Hicks and Bell. This hour is brought to you by Mark Spain Real Estate. Before we get into some Falcon stuff, this just coming down. And Mike and I were both shaking our heads because we had high expectations. Sometimes things happen, right? And Troy Andersen is a guy going into the season we had high expectations for. He's been placed on IR, Mike. It looks like he's done for the season. I think Coach Art alluded to this yesterday when he said it doesn't look good. But that is an official move now, and so we're going to see where they go and how this shakes out. Nate Landman, right?
Yeah, Nate Landman would be the guy that steps in and did last week. So you hope that Troy comes back. But, I mean, this is the thing. And sometimes, as we know, with injuries, Pitts, the trajectory was great. Sure, not enough touchdowns in the first season, but there were a lot of mitigating circumstances to that. But he got 1,000 yards. Yep. It was a Pro Bowler. The league, the players saw this guy had skills. Obviously, last year takes a big step back. But now you got a guy who is learning on the job in year one, is out in year two, and now has to literally start from scratch. And I like him. I think I defended the pick at the time, but I just don't want this to turn to the next Mike Mamula. And for those who don't remember, older guys do. Mamula was kind of the quintessential combine darling who hit all the metrics. And as you guys know, in our conversations with Troy, coming out of Montana State, played running back, quarterback, played linebacker, but he didn't play a lot of linebacker in his career. It was like he grew up playing linebacker like Ray Lewis did. You know what I mean? And then at the time, the argument was for Nakobe Dean. And he went much later in the draft. There were other teams that passed on Nakobe Dean, so you can't say it was just us. But it is interesting to look at some of the there's nobody who's made the Pro Bowl who was picked after him. I'm looking right now at the old draft picks. There are some guys who are certainly contributing on both sides of the ball, but he's a top 60 pick. So you keep messing on that, then you're going to be in the same boat. And I've got to be honest, I used to call out Thomas Dimitroff for blowing second-round picks. Ebiketie is not an impact player yet. He's a rotational guy at best. Richie Grant is rotational. He's not been the impact guy I thought he was going to be. These are second-round picks, and now Anderson's going to miss a season. So you got to do better on your second rounders. Those guys are not. That's not chicken feed, Carl.
How many snaps has Richie Grant played, Turtle? Let's take a look and see in 3 games. Falcons placed linebacker Troy Andersen on the IR. They've signed offensive lineman Storm Norton. Storm comes off the Saints practice squad. So you don't go linebacker because you feel like you've got that taken care of on the roster, and instead you go sign an offensive lineman. What's that tell you? I mean, I don't know how much Storm actually plays, but you sign him to the 53-man roster off the Saints practice squad. So there has to be some intel there, Mike, and they have to feel pretty good about it. But this kind of stuff happens. But we wish Troy nothing but the best as far as his recovery and what that means and what that's going to look like. But everybody's dealing with injuries. It's early in the season. You got to overcome this stuff.
The only other guy I'm looking at, remember we talked about Brian Asamoah. I'm just going back to the draft for that 22. And let's see here. Just no sacks, 1 forced fumble. He's not doing anything special for Minnesota, you could argue. So, I mean, it wasn't like the most robust draft. That's why maybe they felt it was a reach to go for Nakobe Dean at that spot.
Now, while we're talking about drafts, last night as we're watching the doubleheader on Monday Night Football, Eagles were up first. They win the game. But part of the storyline was Jalen Carter and how he looks, and a lot of people, specifically Falcon fans, chiming in on where they feel like we missed out, that we should have drafted him. This debate is going to go on for a while, guys. Yeah. But I don't think we are where we are at 2-1 without the Bijan Robinson explosion we saw in games 1 and 2. Nobody did really anything in game 3. We know that against the Lions. But, Mike, this is, again, one of those things as if we have to defend our guy. I'm not defending Bijan, and I'm not defending the pick. They went with who they thought was the best pick at the time. The Eagles got a guy that dropped. Some people said he should have been, top 5, and we know why that all played out. But I'm happy for Jalen Carter, guys. But I said this. I think he went to the perfect place. He went to a place where, one, they had studs on defense, specifically the defensive line. He can learn behind him. He gets in there, Mike. He's making plays. I'm all for it. Congratulations. But that doesn't take away from what we decided to do. The problem is, Mike, this offense has been blah, and you're going, where is this offensive explosion that we're supposed to have?
Yeah, I mean, Bijan can't be used as a secret weapon if he's got to stay in pass protection because you can't handle what they're throwing at you. Not that that's ideal, and that didn't happen all the time, but it was part of the game plan. 5 other teams who could have done anything they wanted, other than the teams who went quarterback, didn't draft him. because of maybe perhaps a decision about the off-the-field stuff. Look, we talked about this. There's the world you live in. There's the world you want. And I get it. He looks like a rock star. He checks all the boxes. And then, by the way, that defensive line that he goes to is already, as Carl said, is already loaded. Loaded with Georgia Bulldogs, loaded with playmakers, loaded with
went to the Super Bowl without him.
Right. And he's a stud. And last night it was another jailbreak. He's getting after. There's a video where he's getting double teamed and he's fighting through like the Kool-Aid man. He's going to be a force. Bijan Robinson looks like one of the best players in the league also through the first 3 games.
Yep.
So both teams, guys, I'll say, I don't want to beat you over the head with it. Both teams can be successful. Both teams could have got it right. And if you're mad at the Falcons, be mad at the Raiders, Cardinals, Seahawks, Texans, who also passed on him.
Yeah.
You know, and also another deep dive. I can't say it specifically, but I feel I lean towards Arthur Blank and the organization after what happened with number 7 others don't want to go down that road with somebody they feel has issues they may have to deal with. And at the time, it looked like a bigger bugaboo than maybe people made it out to be. If he shows up at his pro day and balls out, maybe they select him. I don't know.
I agree.
But that just added fuel to the anti-Jalen Carter argument at the time.
Yeah, because wasn't it about him not being in shape, too?
Correct.
Something like that?
Correct.
Brad says, put him up, C. Dukes. That's me. Mike Bell, ATL on Twitter, guys. He says, not Falcon fans complaining. These are UGA fans. Whomever. It doesn't matter, right? We can second-guess this stuff.
Right.
But
I don't remember Georgia fans complaining about the defensive linemen until they started winning national championships.
They never did.
But okay.
No, they never did. But Mike, I understand the attitude like, hey, I'm watching this guy. Yeah, and I was watching Bijan in week 2 making people miss. And people around the country are going, holy crap, this kid's special.
Right.
Because he is. We will see plenty of that. But I'm going to give props where it's due, man. And I'll say this. That Eagles defense was good without him. They're good with him. And this is why a lot of people are picking the Eagles to get back potentially to the Super Bowl. They're stout, guys. They got one of the best rosters in the NFL. So with that said, it is what it is. But it was kind of one of those off the beaten path kind of conversations, Mike. It was like, yeah, I wish the Falcons. Wait a minute.
Look, Bijan can be a superstar in this league, and Jalen Carter can be a superstar,
Absolutely.
as we said. I've always used that argument that the sports idiots on ESPN and these stupid talk shows, it's a zero-sum game. Both can be rock stars. Yeah, I wish Georgia players matriculated to the Falcons more over the last 20-some-odd years. It's almost criminal, no matter who the general manager was, that we don't seem to make impact picks with Georgia Bulldogs. I'll never understand it because they have over the years, even when they weren't going to national championships, put guys in the league.
Yeah.
And I understand the argument because I've made the argument on the radio. But I'm also telling you why they didn't pick Jalen Carter at the time. The interest in what Bijan Robinson was going to do combined with perhaps a little pushback on the off-the-field stuff at the time.
Blake says the biggest concern, Dukes and Bell in 3 years now in a row. High offensive draft picks, and we're not explosive. There's no doubt. It was my thing yesterday when I said, when are we going to get these guys involved? And I said this today, guys. This is the most frustrating thing. I want you to think about this. 3 games, we are averaging 6 points in the first half through 3 weeks of football. There's no way with the weapons we have that should be the number.
No.
There's no way.
I think we're 18th in scoring right now in the NFL. And Arthur, look, we played that soundbite all preseason. We need to score more points. From the coach, his words, you go back to it. Penei Sewell was the biggest need. The offensive tackle was the biggest need.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't have to worry about Caleb McGarry's inadequacies, and you would have told him, adios. But Penei, the one guy I would have taken was, now we can all say, well, we should have drafted Micah Parsons. Well, so should 11 other teams.
Nobody knew that.
No one knew where Micah Parsons was. He also went to a really good fit. But this was the argument. They went with the best athlete available, and after 1 year, he sure looks like the best athlete. He's a Pro Bowler, 1,000 yards. You can revisit it after this season, and if he doesn't hit 800 yards receiving, that's a stupid pick. And it's even more stupid to continue to run a quarterback out there who can't get the ball in the hands of the playmakers you dedicated those high draft picks to. But that's only 3 weeks in. I'm not going to go against my argument earlier today on Twitter, Carl. They got to fix this. Hopefully it starts against Jaguars in London. If you don't, then you're going to have to tell Falcon fans, why are you throwing a guy out there who can't get those guys the ball?
8th lowest yards per game this season through 3 weeks. So you're scoring 6.5 on average, okay, right, in the first half. And now you're the 8th worst, basically, yards per game in the league. These things don't add up to winning football, okay? They just don't. So, by the way, Richie Grant going back, I thank you, Turtle, for the research. Most snaps of anybody on the defense. He's on the field a lot, Mike. Now, he may not be playing well, but he's on the field.
Look, I wanted him. I thought he was going to be a rock star here. But is he having the impact?
He's on the field.
Yeah, but is he having the impact? Troy Andersen's having zero impact now. And Ebiketie, I know that you liked Ebiketie in the draft.
I did.
But
and I still do. Listen, I think.
But don't you know what? Is it popping though? It's year 2. This year has got to take off.
I always, especially with pass rushers, corners, there's just certain positions. I want to give you 3 years. All right. Now, if a guy explodes, Mike, and is brilliant in year 2 or year 1, and you go, like again, Aiden Hutchinson, we just saw him. Year 1, I didn't need to see anything else. I knew he's coming. But sometimes it takes guys a little bit longer. But Mike, when we get to year 3, okay, and I'm not giving these guys a pass. I need Ebiketie to be better. I need everybody on this defense to be better. And they played. I thought they kept us in the game on Sunday. But with that said, you get to year 3, and then all of a sudden we're having the same conversation. It's time to cut bait. Like, 3 years in the NFL is an eternity. It is, especially if you're a playmaker. You either make plays or you don't. And sometimes you say, well, it's the system. Well, Richie has now been in this system 2 years in a row. Basically, Mike, they're running similar things that Dean Pease ran. I'm with you. I need to be better, but I still believe that he can come along and make some action.
If we didn't commit, that was the draft. You had to get the defensive end of the first round, and we went with Drake London. So if you commit to offense, again, it gets you behind the 8 ball because now Chris just told me in my ear 60 snaps for Ebiketie this season through 3 games.
Yeah.
That averages out to 20 snaps a game. And I'm with you. If it was a 5th-round pick, I'll disagree with you because I think as a second-rounder, you got to be a star. Year 2, you're a star, you're established, you're an impact guy. Maybe not a Pro Bowler, but you're making plays. Ebiketie's not that guy.